Great. Well, it's amazing to be here. I know that you've had a really incredible day already, and I think there's some more networking and drinks that we stand in the way of. So we're going to be really, really quick, but hopefully try and round up a little bit about some of the things that you've been talking about. The bakery is where the hangout kind of lives as well. So how many people have been to the hangout, City University's kind of entrepreneurial area there? Great, good. So some of you know what we do. I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are and what we do, but then I'm really just going to go into a couple of exciting case studies where smaller creative businesses have really engaged with some of the big businesses of the world, because that's really what I'm going to try and talk about a little bit here. How big businesses are looking to entrepreneurial, agile, creative people to do their innovating for them, because that's what technology particularly has allowed us to do. And really that's what the bakery's all about. The reason we're called a bakery, by the way, is because we bake tech companies, creative tech companies, together with agencies, big kind of London agencies based over in Soho in the west of London. And they're massive, great big clients. We bring them to Shoreditch. And you know, they bring their clients, these big agencies, MSC Saatchi and Visium, Aegis, WPP, some of these businesses that you've probably heard of, bring their massive clients from Luton down to Shoreditch, and we mix them together with a whole bunch of really creative technologists, and they end up innovating cool new stuff. And that's really what happens at the bakery. It's incredibly exciting. It's a pretty new idea. We stole the idea from accelerators. We call ourselves an accelerator. You've probably heard about accelerators like Y Combinator, started by Paul Graham on the west coast of the United States. Great idea. Take clever people, stick them in a room, give them just enough beer and pizza so that they come up with something clever, invest in their kind of sweat, and then hopefully at the end of a pretty short period of time, normally 3 months, they've come up with something cool. They talk to other investors, and those investors invest in them. And as a result, the accelerators kind of investment goes up in value. This first started, as I say, in 2009, and the first business that came out of Y Combinator was Dropbox. And we probably all use it, right? Apparently 30% of the world's data is now stored on Dropbox. They've had billions of dollars of investment, and the people who were in that accelerator, you know, right at the very beginning, came out of university, just like this one, and are now very wealthy people, and that's really cool. We took that idea, and by the way, other people took that idea as well. Lots of other accelerators started. You've probably heard about companies like Techstars and Seedcamp and Springboard. And amazingly, big organizations looked at this clever way of investing in early stage businesses, and they said, you know what, we should do that. Why don't we do that as big companies? So Telefonica started an accelerator called Wira. Apparently Wira is the name of a cool wind in Brazil. I didn't know that, but that's what it is. Or maybe a hot wind. But that's what it is. And Wira have their own accelerator. They have 9 of them spread around the world. I was in Sao Paulo recently in the Wira accelerator there. Incredible place. And of course, Nike Plus run their own accelerator as well. So we stole this idea, as did all these other people. But what we said is, rather than invest in these businesses and invest in these clever people, because whilst money is important, it's not the only important thing. We said, well, why don't we help them find their first big customers? My background is as an entrepreneur, and I've started 2 relatively successful businesses. The first one was a credit card fraud detection system. So we built this. I had a really clever guy, and he built this thing, and I said, and I'm a salesman, I'm really not that clever, I'm just good at selling things. And I said to him, I can sell this to banks. Banks would buy this, that would be great. And it took me nearly 2 years to find the first bank. We raised $42 million, and it slowly was burning away over the time it took me to sell to the first bank. We still had some left at the end, but it took quite a long time to get our first customer, because even if you've got $42 million in the bank, if you're selling to big organizations, you know, you're still quite a small company. If there's just 6 or 7 or even 15 of you, you're still quite a small company. So getting to big companies is quite hard. Second business I started was a little tech company. It sounds really boring when I say it now, but it was the first company ever to put a barcode inside a text message. Okay, so now everybody's doing it, right? And everybody's got QR codes and clever things. You can send them around, you've got smartphones. But back in the day, I'm quite old, and back in the day when we all had those funny Nokia brick phones, do you remember those with a little kind of black and white screen? We were the first person ever to display a barcode on that little screen. And we thought, this is really cool. We can use it for anything, tickets or airlines or gigs. I wonder who might use it. I met an advertising agent. And I said, I've got this cool thing. It's really brilliant. Look at that. He said, I know somebody who might want to buy that. And he introduced me to the marketing director of Diageo, Guinness, actually, who are owned by Diageo. And they said, wow, that's cool. We could implement it. And I went around Dublin for 6 months with a barcode that was worth 2 free pints of Guinness on my phone. I was the most popular man in Dublin for about six months. And I realized then that if I was building a new tech company, what I'd do, especially if it was in the marketing sector, I'd go to agencies because they have lunch with the marketing directors of big companies. And I thought, well, they must know what these people want. If they tell me what those people want, I could build that. And then, you know, I could sell it to them. It would be much easier. So basically, that's what the bakery does. We bridge brands, big brands all over the world, with innovative tech companies. Because these two people are really, really different. But they're incredibly complementary. And in fact, they need one another. And here's why. Big brands are slow and old, and but they have a whole bunch of money, and they've got millions of customers. Okay? Innovative tech companies are young and fast and agile, and they need lots of money, and they need lots of customers, right? And they don't have either of those two things. So the two of them kind of need each other. The brands want to innovate. They want to get closer to their clients. They want to do cool things like moonwalking ponies and, I don't know, ping-it type payment systems so that you can pay people just on your smartphone. But it's quite hard for them with their big IS teams to innovate. It takes them years. For a small company, they can build something like that in no time flat. It's really, really easy. And not only that, they can make it look amazing, with beautiful design and incredible creativity. But the problem is that how do they speak to each other? There's a syntax problem, actually. When you start putting these two groups of people together, and you put them in the room together, it's really weird. You start to see that they don't really speak the same language. It's quite odd. Even those tech companies that have been quite good at raising finance or raising money, they might be able to sell to a tech investor. But actually, when you sit them down with the CEO of Heinz or chief marketing officer of BMW, they really don't speak the same language at all. So we interpret between them, and we spend a lot of time doing that. I'm going to take you through a couple of examples, and then what I'm going to do really is have a discussion with you and try and understand and try and tell you how it works, and perhaps hopefully get something out of you. Sorts of brands that come in to this new type of accelerator, and there are now a whole bunch of these around, by the way. We were the first, but there's a company called the Brandery in Boulder, and there's one called Boomtown as well in the United States, using pretty much the same model. Basically, brands come in, and instead of, the brands are like the investors. Okay, investors have got money, and they want to see an investment pitch at the end of an accelerator process from the other guys. These brands have got problems, and they want to see a solution pitch at the end of the accelerator process. So the brands come in, And they tell us the problems that they've got. And they work through typically their advertising agencies who, if they find a solution, can turn it into a really cool, creative, campaign. And what we then do is we go out and find innovative tech companies that might be able to provide solutions to those problems. Let me give you a couple of examples. BMW came to us. BMW said, we've got a great reputation for building fast, premium, high-end sports cars. Our consumers know who BMW are. It's fantastic. But we've got a problem because in 12 weeks' time, we're going to be launching an electric vehicle. We've never launched an electric vehicle before. Our consumers would have no idea how an electric car that you plug into your garage would even fit into their lifestyle. They don't know what would happen if they put their foot down. Would it slow down or would it speed up? If they turn the heater on, does it decrease the range? They'll have all sorts of questions about it. Then, when you think about BMW, you think premium, high-end, sporty. When you think about electric vehicles, you kind of think Prius, don't you? And it kind of doesn't match. And they said, so we've got a problem. We're going to launch this car, and we know that our consumers are going to have loads of questions for us. We don't know what those questions are going to be, and we have no idea how to answer them. And anyway, even if we did, we've got no people to answer those questions. So is there some kind of technical solution out there in the world that exists that might be able to help us? We introduced them to a tiny little Russian company that had built an artificial intelligence engine. They'd actually built it to answer your questions about pizza, whether your pizza was going to be delivered or how hot it was, or whether it had pepperoni on it. And a really clever piece of technology. And they were desperate for their first kind of big customer. We introduced them to BMW. They did a little demo in front of them. It was really cool. BMW loved it. And they said, we're going to go ahead with this and launch this product. They called it the BMW iGenius. And actually, 9 weeks later, at the official European launch of the BMW i3 on the 29th of July, the BMW iGenius went live. It had a rapturous applause. Everybody loved it. It's now on every single piece of collateral that BMW used to talk about their BMW i3 car. And you can use it now. You can text any question you like about the BMW i3 to 84737. You can ask it anything you like. It will understand the language you use. It will understand the tone of voice that you have. It will understand how technically competent you are. And it will answer you as if it were a human. It's a robot, an artificial intelligence engine. It's a bit like Siri, if you like. But it's designed just for BMW. And as a result, this little company that had really not very many customers has gone on to now have a worldwide contract with a multinational vehicle manufacturer, and they're in discussions with a whole bunch of other people. So that was something that they didn't even know they could use that piece of technology for. And just by understanding what the company's problem was allowed them to kind of build a business. And they've since gone on to sell to Panasonic to educate people in stores, and to Unilever to help people understand what recipes they can make from the contents of their fridge, okay, using the same technology. I'll do one more, and then I'm going to open it out to questions. So Stella Artois came to us. Any Stella Artois drinkers in the... No. Oh, look at that. Oh, just one. Well, you probably know that, and if you walk around London, you will see that last year they did this amazing new campaign about serving Stella Artois in a particular way. You know, they used to slice the head off. Have you seen that kind of advert? They're basically teaching bartenders to serve Stella Artois like continental bartenders would. Apparently, if you slice the head off, the big bubbles go away, and you only drink this lager through the small bubbles, and it tastes better, apparently. Anyway, Stella Artois came to us, and they said, we've got a problem. We've got 1.7 million fans of our product on Facebook. Okay? It's brilliant. They're there sharing pictures of Stella Artois and talking about it to their friends. which is great. But the problem with that is they're not in the pubs enjoying our wonderful product, and we'd quite like them to go there. How do we get these 1.7 million people off Facebook and into the pubs? We again introduced them to actually a tiny company from Oxford that had come out of Oxford University's Accelerator, so very, very pertinent. Two Spanish guys, Carlos and his friend Inigo. And they had built a business that was being used around campus to gift people cups of coffee in the local kind of coffee shops around Oxford. We said we could use this. That would be great. So now you can go on to the Stella Artois Facebook page. You can like Stella, and you can gift somebody a pint of perfectly poured Stella Artois in any one of 35 pubs around London and 45 pubs in Manchester, where they taught people how to serve the beer in this particular way. Connoisseur pubs, they called it. And you couldn't buy one for yourself. You had to gift it to somebody else. So actually what happened is that Stella seeded it with 200 free pints, and then people kind of started giving it away. If I could give you one, and I'd hope that you might give me one back, and then we'd go out and enjoy it in the pub. Our biggest round so far has been 150 pints of Stella Artois. I don't think they were all drunk in the same time, but people bought them for one another. And now you can go out and do this. So this was the first ever physical Facebook gifting app that was ever created. Lots of people have created gifting apps, but it was really just for vouchers that you get money off things as you go in. This was actually where you got a physical product as a result. And it was one of the most successful voucher-based promotions that Stella Artois had ever done, from a tiny little company just solving that particular problem. And we have big companies like this, big brands like this, giving us problems all the time. I'm going to cut to the end and then I'll show you a little video from Jeremy Bassett from Unilever. And I don't know if we're going to do this. Probably not. Maybe not. I should have tested this before. Anyway, I won't do this. Jeremy Bassett, Global Marketing Strategy Director of Unilever, second largest advertiser in the world, said, we used to be a startup, Unilever used to be a startup, and we remember exactly how we could develop things and be agile, and we built a massive organization based on creating this huge company that would, and our barrier to other people entering was our size. Now in the world of the internet, we can't do that. And we need to be innovative to be able to keep our competitors out. And we need to work with smaller businesses to be able to do that. Big brands around the world have recognized that they can give their problems out to people and have them solve them. I had a bunch of you guys come in the other day. I know how clever you are. I've seen how amazingly bright the people are that are in this university, the people that are building creative solutions. What I'm going to urge you to do is think about the problems that you're solving. Think very, very, very clearly about the potential problems that your new idea could potentially solve. And if you're stuck with what those problems might be, what I'm going to do is ask you to ask me. Because these big brands have come to us and told us what their problems are, and they're desperate to find solutions. And they've got millions of users and hundreds of thousands of pounds to pay people who might be able to fix those problems. So I don't know if anybody's working on any ideas at the moment, but if anybody wants to know what some of the other problems are, I can probably tell you. I'm going to just open the session out to questions now for a few minutes. I think we've got about 5-10 minutes left. So has anybody got any questions about why some of these brands might want to work with some of you guys? Yeah. Sure.
Is it strictly just you listening and making decisions, or is it?
It's really like, it's a great question, by the way. How does the process work? It's really like speed dating. Kind of the brands tell us what their problems are, and just like, if you were on a speed dating site, you might say, well, I want somebody 5'7", blonde hair, whatever it is. And then we look for people like that, and we put them in a room together, and we give them just a few minutes to try and get the idea across. And you know what I said earlier on about the languages that people speak? We spend quite a lot of time with the tech companies, particularly, talking to them about what the problem is, how to put the solution across in a way that would appeal to a brand owner who's spending millions of dollars advertising stock cubes or whatever it happens to be, and how to put that particular piece of technology across in a way that that person will get. Because one of the things that we see a lot is people don't know how to present their solution in a really clear, concise way where people can just exactly get it, and see how it might impact their life or impact their product or their process. And that's one of the most important things. The second most important thing is just like speed dating. It's about chemistry between the people in the room. You get about, in our process, initially, you get about 6 minutes in front of a big brand owner. And then if he or she likes kind of what he thought you said, then you get to come back and you get to spend 10 minutes with the same person. And what we've noticed really, many, many times over is that the chemistry between those people is really, really important. I don't know how you can work on chemistry. I don't know how you can develop chemistry. But it's a really important thing to get right. One of the things we've noticed also is that particularly early stage tech companies, if they've got a little bit of investment, first thing they do is go out and buy a salesman. And that's not the right thing to do in our experience. People want to deal with the original developers. They want to deal with the people that have been passionate enough to get this thing to the place that it is. But then they just need a bit of professionalism on top of that, I suppose, as well. Yeah, question?
I was just going to ask if you could extend a bit more about that chemistry factor.
Yeah.
I used to work in the Middle East for a fourth-party software company called SAP. And meeting with those clients, they would say to me that they didn't trust me unless I looked them in the eye.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't do any business with us unless they did that. So I'm just wondering, how do you engage with them? How do you get that trust when you've got 6 minutes?
Yeah.
It's a great idea to a big FTSE 100 company.
Yeah. You know what? I've worked in the Middle East, and I would agree with that in the Middle East, but I'd probably agree with it here in the UK and most places that you go. People won't do business with people that they don't feel that they can trust. And that is a real gut feeling, and particularly I think more actually so in the UK than almost anywhere else. We make 90% of our judgment about somebody in the first 90 seconds. Has anybody heard that stat? I also think that 80% of stats are made up at the minute that somebody said it. Exactly. So it's really compressed. Exactly. It's really compressed. You make a judgment about somebody, and then you spend the rest of your time with that person reconfirming your original idea, okay? So that first 90 seconds about how you engage, how the simple things, how you look somebody in the eye, how you gain empathy, how you shake somebody's hand, how you get to the point where you start talking about what it is you're talking about, not too soon, but not too late. All of those kinds of things are things that come with practice. And so I don't know if that's something you teach here at the university, but I really think it's really, really important. So my advice to you, again, my advice to anybody, is do it as much as you can and get better at it and seek feedback from people about, how did I get on? How did you feel about me? Did you feel that you could trust me? Could you buy from me? Why didn't you buy from me? And get that feedback and work on it, because it is certainly one of the most important factors. Yeah, question down here.
In that the brand agent, the big companies want to see a prototype.
Yeah.
Digital companies want the money for the prototype.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have a certain amount of personal investment you make into your startup, but there's a limit if the prototype can cost up to £10,000.
Yeah. Okay, so the question, I don't know if the guys at the back heard it, how do you get funding without funding? If you've got no money, how do you get to the point where, you know, you've got something to build? But the answer is right now, at the moment, there's never been a better time anywhere, and particularly here, to find the opportunity to create something that might get you to that point. And there's so many different sources of funding around. There's businesses like, organizations like Creative England, Technology Strategy Board, there's the student loans, not student loans, the startup loans process. And actually you can do huge amounts of work with not very much. But the other thing I would say is that if you've got an idea and you can't convince a tech developer to build that idea for you for nothing or for a share in the business idea, then you know what, it's probably not the right idea. If you can't get somebody excited enough about it to put a bit of time in, you know, to build something, because you can build something, particularly software or wireframe something, for really not very much. So if you can't convince or get somebody excited about it so much that they're prepared to put a little bit of their time in to help you build it, it's probably not the best idea in the world, and think of something else. One more question down here.
Okay, this morning, I appreciate you weren't there, but we heard from a woman from the Design Council.
Yeah.
And she told us, I can't remember the statistics, but they're not really relevant, are they? Being inaccurate, but I think it was 62% of men are obese and 68% and 58% of women are obese.
Goodness.
And only 9%, well no, what was it, 75% of the population only walk for 9 minutes a day.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
So what we actually know, more than anything, is that the food we eat is the thing that's generating our obesity. It doesn't matter about anything else. It's the food we eat.
Yeah.
So what are you doing at the bakery to bring people who are...
Do you know, I am so glad you asked that question.
Okay?
Right.
What are you doing at the bakery to bring the big brands and the tech companies...
What did I say to you guys the other day when you came in? What did I say to you guys the other day when you came in? So, one of the biggest problems in the world today is obesity. In fact, here's another statistic for you, that apparently 2 years ago, we passed a milestone in this world, and that is that more people died from overeating related illnesses than they died of not having enough food to eat, if that makes sense. More people died of being fat, effectively, than being malnutritioned, which is a horrible thought when you think about all the people that are dying, you know, through malnutrition, and that's been the issue. So yes, you're absolutely right. It's a huge problem. And what is fascinating is that many of the big brands are desperate to help people solve this problem. And they are looking for technologies that put them at the forefront of helping people manage their intake. Now, you could argue left, right, and center that, you know, people that are putting sugar in soda are, you know, the villains, and that's probably true. And you could also argue that it's the electricity company that causes porn on our websites, because if it wasn't for the electricity, we wouldn't be able to look at the... But the reality is we need to help educate people about their food intake and eating properly and, you know, exercising and doing all those things. And many of them are looking for solutions to help people live their lives better, and are really keen to work with agile technology companies that can provide solutions to that. Not only that, there are many other organizations, and we work with the World Health Organization and Public Health England, who again are looking to provide support to people along those lines. And I've recently seen a really cool little company called Extra Miles, who have a little micro rewards solution. If you're ever using a Fitbit or any of those kinds of things, the more you walk, the more little miles you get, air miles you get. You walk a mile, you get 15 air miles, apparently. And we're hoping to introduce those guys to Public Health England, for example. But certainly Unilever are very keen to get involved with solutions that help people monitor their sugar intake. Danone are really keen to help people do that too. So the big brands want to be seen to be doing the right thing. So
it's not the sugar intake, it's the fat and the sugar are 50% proportions. That is because the body doesn't regulate that. It regulates sugar, regulate fat. It won't regulate the 50-50 split.
Right.
That's the problem.
Fine. Well, I mean, I'm sure there must be people in here that could solve that problem.
The rat just kept on eating the cheesecake. So
Well, exactly. So I'm sure there are people in here that could solve that problem. I think we might be on time. We've got time for one more. There's one more. One very quick question. Really quick question at the back. Go on then.
At which part of the relationship between the two parties does return on investment come in the conversation? Do they expect the startup to...
Okay, I'm going to answer the question. The brands come into the process expecting to spend £50,000 on a product. They have ring-fenced a budget for at least £50,000, and they expect to spend that money. They don't have to buy anything that they don't like, but fundamentally they have that money ready to buy something that they get impressed with, and it takes 8 weeks to get the money out of them. So that's the answer to the question.
They don't know if that's going to be returned. If the investment is going to...
No, it's a complete risk, and for them it's a drop in the ocean. It really is nothing. I'm sorry, I'm being dragged off stage. Thanks very much indeed. I'll chat to you later.